BKFC president David Feldman says Francis Ngannou asked for unrealistic money. He believes Ngannou's value is starting to drop.
Francis Ngannou could be, he's someone that we've certainly reached out to. We talked to him, we talked to his team. At this point, we just feel like he's asking for unrealistic money, and we're not willing to pay that kind of money for him. I do think he needs to make his mind up pretty soon because, I feel like his value will, as the days go on, his value is starting to drop a little bit.
Chael Sonnen also had some advice for Francis Ngannou yesterday. Chael advises Francis to call Dana White. Speaking to MMA Junkie, Chael said Francis did a show yesterday with a gentleman who was kind of a business show host. The guy was breaking it down, and he was asking Francis some very basic questions about the business of MMA. Francis, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He didn't have the foggiest idea how to respond. I thought maybe he was past that. He had been around. He looked around and kind of saw where some of the numbers came from. He saw what made sense. I think now that maybe he was still in the mindset of, I knocked out 3 guys in a row and therefore, as if that just created money from the MMA money tree. There are not a lot of opponents. If we're playing chess here, I don't have 2 or 3 steps for Francis. I don't know how old Francis is. He says he's 36. He's at least 36. I don't know how old he is. I'm not sure he knows how old he is. I don't bring that up to try to be funny. His body has already given out on him. He's already telling somebody I'm on the free market. Bid a whole bunch of money for me. By the way, I've got a bad knee. Nobody in the world, no coach looks at a guy who is hurt and old and pays him a bigger check. It's a really weird situation. I want him to get it figured out. I don't say it to tease him. Time is ticking. Every day he's not signed, he's losing. Let me put this into perspective for you. This is a very big deal. 3 days ago was April 1st, and they put out an April Fool's joke. Tyson Fury put out an April Fool's joke on social media that he and Francis was done, and they were fighting in Wembley on May 15th. Tyson Fury made a joke. Francis has changed his whole life. His whole life is different because he thought he was going to make up a sport and do it with a guy who is now using it as an April Fool's joke. Whatever has happened here, he's got to get some cold water. He has to wake up and he needs to call back his boss. Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith on the Believe You Me podcast share some of the most important things they've learned in their MMA careers and some advice they would give to an up-and-coming fighter.
What would be the biggest thing that you learned, and like a nugget of wisdom that you would hand down to, an aspiring fighter?
I mean, people ask me this all the time, and there's a bunch of them, but like whatever you have planned, just throw it out the window, because whatever that plan is not going to happen. It's just not. I had all these plans. I got a plan right now, but I'm also very aware that it's likely going to change. I have this idea of how the next however long my career is going to go, the next year, the next 2 years, how it's going to go till my retirement. And it's just not, this sport is so fluid. There's so many ways to win. There's so many ways to lose. The temperature in the room can change overnight. Even just look at the light heavyweight division where it's Blachowicz and Ankalaev fight for the title. So then in my head, I got this figured out, like, okay, I got to do this. I got to beat Jamal Hill. Then maybe I get one more and then I get a title shot. And then that fight goes to a draw and it just changed the entire division, And in a week before that, it's, Yuri Prohaska is the champion of the world. So it's, the whole thing is just this whole game is so fluid and things change so much and you got to be able to adapt. And I think I fought that and tried to control it more when I was younger. So I think that would be, very broadly would be something I learned.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to literally roll with the punches, figuratively and actually, physically and figuratively. You do, you know what I mean? Because along the way, every time you step in there, there's 2 people, 2 men, women, whatever, and they got the same grand designs that you have as well. And sometimes you might meet someone that was better than you on the night, and then it's like, whoa, now it's back to the drawing board. What do we do again? And I always say, and I said this to Chito Vera recently as well, as long as you don't give up on yourself, then you still got a chance.
Israel Adesanya is once again the favorite leading into the rematch versus Alex Pereira this weekend. Izzy is the -155 favorite, while Pereira is the +135 underdog. In a recent interview with TMZ Sports, Izzy says he's actually surprised that he's the favorite. Izzy said, I'm surprised by that, to be honest, because I thought these bookies were not as smart as they are. I'm surprised that they actually picked me as the favorite because I'm the more polished fighter, but he's just the guy that's got the tools. He's got that nuke. Only a few fighters in history have that. Eugene said in an interview, "You're lucky to face Mike Tyson. You're lucky to face a guy like David Tua. You're lucky to face a guy like Deontay Wilder, even just once in your career. You're lucky to face a guy like Alex Pereira even once in your career. So yeah, lucky me." On the ending of the first round, Easy continued, "One more shot. One more shot is all it took. I did the same thing when I fought my guy Robert Whittaker. The last second I dropped him. I'm dangerous every second of every fight." Henry Cejudo breaks down Jorge Masvidal versus Gilbert Burns this weekend. Check out the full breakdown on Henry's YouTube channel. Links in the description.
Jorge Masvidal has been around the game. If anybody really has the American dream story, it's a guy like Jorge Masvidal. Like, he can go 0 to 100 real quick. Or we can go back and watch that fight with Darren Till when he was losing the fight. Blitz step. He was able to do the kind of like that Superman, be able to catch him with that left hook, be able to put out Darren Till. This is what makes George Masvidal. And if he's watching this, he would probably agree with me. It's his experience, man. You know, from street brawling in the streets to holding records in the UFC, you know, that having the fastest knockout in UFC history. He's a champion that's getting pay-per-view points on a very, very big card. You know what that equals, people? That equals millions. That equals money. Something that makes Gilbert Burns extremely dangerous now for the sport of mixed martial arts. His top control. Fearless. When nobody wanted to fight Khamzat Chimaev, you know who says I want Khamzat? That's right. You got it right. His name is Gilbert Burns. And I think George has done enough to just, you know, to cruise on to sunset. Yeah, you know, but you never know come this Saturday.
Justin Gaethje explains why Michael Bisping is not his favorite commentator. Following Kamaru Usman's loss to Leon Edwards, Gaethje came out and said that Bisping was biased. In a recent interview, Gaethje reveals the origin of his issues with Bisping. He went on to say, "I have no ill will against Bisping. You know, when he commentates, he's not my favorite commentator. I remember him talking about me when I first came in, fighting Michael Johnson, and so I'm a pretty petty person. And you know, some things you don't forget." And that's gonna wrap it up for the news. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe to Full Mount MMA and click the bell icon to be notified when we post future ones. Here are the 3 top comments from last video. These comments are in reference to Khamzat Chimaev claiming Robert Whittaker was offered a fight with him, and then Rob shutting that down. The first one's from Punjabi Piccolo. It says, "If I gotta choose between Rob and Khamzat, I'm gonna believe Rob's words. Either there's a misunderstanding or Khamzat is a habitual liar." The second one's from Justin Belcher. It says, "Robert Whittaker is such a class act in every possible way, and bad to boot. A legend in the making. Yes, he's my favorite fighter." And the final one says, "Bobby Knuckles is the type of guy who wouldn't lie about getting a fight." Those were the 3 top comments from last video. If you want to be featured on the next one, all you have to do is comment down below. If you missed yesterday's news, click the video on screen to get caught up. And make sure to go subscribe to our second channel where we post our exclusive MMA interviews.